Well, welcome everybody to the first WebEx in a series of WebExes on how to become an inside-out school. Today we're going to be talking about common language in your community and school district. My name is Russ Reitz. I'm the Prior Lake Activities Director, and I am joined today by two other colleagues. All of us are out of Minnesota, but I'll let them introduce themselves.
I'm Troy Erdahl. I'm the Director of Athletics and Activities at St. Anthony Village High School near Minneapolis in Minnesota, and I'm also the Ohio AD partner.
And my name is Matt Percival. I'm the Athletic Director at ISOI High School in Apple Valley, Minnesota. Happy to be a part of the ISOI team and want to share a few things with you today related to step one in becoming an ISOI school. That first step and the first part of what we're going to look at today is the idea of sharing a common language with your staff. That common language is what you learned about from Joe and Jody when you attended the ISOI training that you were at. And today's lesson is to really look at how you can, first of all, review that material, but also then bring it to your community, whether that be to coaches in your community, a school board, parents, athletes, etc., in terms of describing the common language of the Inside Out initiative. Thank you. And in that idea of thinking about common language, the quote that's here: leaders who develop a common language do not settle for superficial use of key terms. Instead, they drill deeper to ensure there is clear understanding behind each term. And I think that's really important when we talk about common language here today. You know, the terms that we will use, transactional, transformational, goals, and purpose, might be words that you're familiar with or have used in different areas of your life. But when applied here in the athletic administration area or with your coaching staff, and particularly with our student athletes, it's critically important that we do drill deeper and ensure we have a clear understanding of what each of those terms means and a common understanding of those words as we move forward.
So we know with goals versus purpose that the goals have a distinct beginning and a distinct end. And purpose does not. Purpose is really a destination where we hope to take our programs. Both are important, and both are something that we're going to do a better job of defining in terms of common language. We will practice, plan, prepare to win games, and that is a goal, and that should be a goal of all athletic departments. We want to be competitive. It is our stance that you can do both, and you can do both really well. So in essence, our goal is to win, but it is not our purpose. Our purpose is to teach life lessons through the sport that we coach. And obviously as athletic directors, our purpose is to bring transformational coaches forward that will lead our programs, and that we focus more on the education and the purpose-based programming in what we offer in terms of our athletics.
Hey, Russ, at Prior Lake, with the goals as an example, when you do goal setting with your teams, what are some of the things, both individually and as a team, in terms of goal setting, that kids at Prior Lake come up with when you're talking about setting goals for the year?
So our coaches will set a goal to win a conference championship, to win a section championship, to earn a berth into a state tournament. Athletes will set individual goals about improving as a certain skill as a player. They'll set team goals themselves, to win certain tournaments or to advance into a state meet. Those are the type of goals that our kids are setting. And that's what we've all been doing forever. Those aren't things that are new to our kids, and we still are setting those lofty goals. But now we have this purpose behind those goals, which is what Troy will discuss. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the first video in a series about the five-step path for the Inside Out initiative, and we're talking about sharing common language. And common language is one of the most important pieces to and for an Inside Out culture. And we'll be talking about transformational, transactional. Russ and Matt were just talking about goals and purpose. Russ mentioned this earlier, but the purpose is really the reason for which something exists or done. It's what we're all about. At the end of the day, what we're about in education, purpose-based athletics. Tony Dungy has a fantastic quote that sums it up nicely, that goals have a beginning and an end. Purpose doesn't. It's what we live for. It's long-lasting. It's enduring, and it's the core of who we are. If we're not aware of our purpose and if our goals aren't in alignment, and that's really what it's all about, if our goals aren't in alignment with our purpose, then winning becomes the purpose, and the result is win at all cost culture. And the Inside Out initiative and sharing common language and developing transformational purposes is really getting away from that win at all costs environment.
I think when we talk about this idea, and Troy alluded to that, this is the first in a series of different WebExes. It's first in the series of steps to becoming an inside-out school. And that idea that the next one, and probably the most important, is the development of individual purpose statements to really understand what your purpose really is and at that deeper level. As Russ alluded to, at his school, goal setting has been a pretty common thing that's gone on for a number of years, and people are pretty familiar with. But when it comes to developing a purpose, that comes at a little bit deeper level. And as Troy explained for us, that idea of what we get up for, what we truly live for, and what's behind it, takes a little bit more to really look into. So tune in next week to next week's WebEx to really learn more about the purpose statement. Now, we want to continue on with some of the common language. And first one is the word transactional. And when our purpose is non-existent and our purpose isn't there, people will do anything they can to achieve their goal. There are all sorts of examples of this in pro sport. There's examples of this in collegiate sport. And when it comes to performance-enhancing drugs is a great example of the idea of what people are willing to do in order to reach a goal. But those things also happen at the high school level, what people are willing to do or to sacrifice for a win. So some of the key things when we define the word transactional, and when we talk about a transactional coach, somebody who it's about them, that meaning that they have excessive pride, excessive arrogance about it, and winning is their purpose. For me personally, the best way to describe a transactional coach is their worth as a human being comes from athletes' performance. And when we really think about it that way, am I going to be at the end of the day a better dad, a better husband, a better teacher, those sorts of things, and because the kids that I coach won a game or lost a game, or because a kid made a basket or didn't make a basket, and that idea of worth. And I think this resonates a lot when we talk about it, not only transactional coaching, but transactional players, transactional parents, transactional athletic administrators. And I think for all of us to really look at that and understanding of where a transactional coach is on that continuum of what we're reaching for. Now, I'm going to turn it over to the next folks here to talk about the other side of this, the positive side, the transformational side.
And the quote we have here, the coach is one of the most influential people in a student's life. We know the impact that our coaches have on our student athletes. And as a parent, I know the impact that coaches have on my children. I know I can tell my 13-year-old son to do something until I'm blue in the face, and if a coach says it one time, he is absolutely going to make that decision and that follow through. So the goal here is to recognize the impact or the power that our coaches have over our athletes, and use that power, that impact, for good, for teaching life lessons. One coach will impact more young people in a year than the average person will in a lifetime. Really think about, every coach has transactions with kids. We all have those interactions. We all are going to make a transaction, right? A decision, or have a conversation with our kids. It's just how are we going to do that in a positive, transformational way? So being transformational is more about focusing on the human being and not so much on the human doing. It's really easy for our coaches to grab onto something negative and try to hold our athletes accountable by having some sort of repercussion or some sort of negative interaction with them when something doesn't go the way they hope that it would go. We want to focus on the human being. Our kids are going to make mistakes. We want our coaches to allow our kids to leave their comfort zone, make a mistake, learn from that mistake, and grow from it. And that really is the essence of being transformational, that we're not so focused on winning, that we're focused on growing, and helping our athletes reach their full potential. Absolutely what Matt said about worth being tied to athlete performance. A transformational coach knows that they are trying to be the best version of themselves, and they're not concerned about the perception of others if their team doesn't perform or if an athlete doesn't perform in a particular situation. These are all just simply trials where kids are learning from those trials and getting better as people and as athletes. Some strategies and best practices to implementing common language, and for sure in helping our coaches become more transformational, is something Troy is going to share. Go ahead, Troy.
Yeah, this is part of the practical application of common language, and Russ and Matt will jump in along the way. Just a few notes about how these conversations within your school and with your coaches and your community and with your student athletes, it'll redefine who you are and what you're all about. And I think Russ and Matt would say that's certainly been true for them. And I know at my high school, it really has changed who we are and what we're all about. And a few examples of how common language has done that. Conversations between myself as the athletic director and coaches. In our preseason meetings, it really changes our discussion about the goals for the season when you also include conversation about what is your purpose and what are you all about. Goals still exist, but now that conversation is about more than just those goals. And really, what is success? Talking about what success means, and this is a topic for a future webinar, but many times coaches haven't given that question a full vetting or fully really thought through what does success mean for me. Another area is between the athletic department and administration. So between my office and even my coaches, whoever might be working with our principals or our superintendents, school board members, when they're having those conversations, and our coaches have the opportunity to tell the school board what their purpose is and what they are all about, and to get that common language out there so they know what we mean when we say our purpose. It opens the door for conversations about what educational athletics are all about. We're different from many of the community-based programs, and we're also different in what success looks like for our programs. And Russ just mentioned it a second ago. We're about growth and development, and that's what a transformational coach is all about. It helps define what the coach's job is all about, and that'll be another webinar, the last webinar, talking about a coach's job description. But what is the coach's job? Is it all about winning games, or is there more to it? And the transformational coach has more protection when there's common language. So this is something that our coaches have really bought into as well, because they understand that there is more to it than just winning games, and that the way we define success is really about human growth and potential. And going through the process of developing a collective purpose statement. And a purpose statement, Matt mentioned earlier, is one of the most important steps along the way to defining this culture. And then lastly, just a few things in our conversations when you're talking about common language, to get our parents, athletes, and coaches all on the same page. We start our preseason meetings talking about our purpose statements and talking about what we're all about in education-based athletics. In the first weeks of the season, we have a character education lesson where we have the coach talk about why they coach, what success is for them with their athletes. So in a team coach environment where they're having a real heart-to-heart about why they're doing what they do and what success means for them. And then the athletes are asked to define what a successful experience looks like for them. And so all of those pieces are just part of what sharing the common language is, and trying to build a culture where everyone is speaking the same language and really on the same sheet of music.
Thanks, Troy. And I think that idea of common language and that great importance, both not only in our own communities, but now to be able to have those same conversations and to be able to rely on each other as athletic administrators across our conference, across the state of Minnesota, in our region meetings, et cetera, everybody's working from that same common language piece of understanding. They understand the words goals and purpose. They understand transactional and transformational. So when you have those conversations with a coach or with a parent, the more that we have them, that common language really starts to make a huge, huge difference. So we're asking you to do is to do that at your own school level with your own coaching staff as a starting point, and then grow it from there.
And I think one of the things all three of us have done in our journey in becoming an Inside Out school is we've really worked hard to define our current sports culture within our own communities, and how education-based athletics is so much different than youth sports, and it's so much different than college and professional sports. And I think it's an important line to draw, especially with parents and with your school board and administrators. I know it's something that's easy for our coaches to buy into, that we are an extension of the school day, that we're basically seventh period, and we're going to teach the same sort of lessons that are taught in our regular classes during school. The goal here is that we have strong school citizens that are going to leave our high school, hopefully take something that they learned from our coaches in their program, apply it to their life as adults, and hopefully come back in 20 years and say something you did or said made an impact on me, and I'm a better person because of it. So those are all different strategies that you can share. I know we all do big parent-athlete coach meetings. We present in front of our school board. Any chance I get to meet with athletes, we talk a lot about transactional, transformational, goal versus purpose, many of the different common language things that we discussed today. Matt.
Yeah, so in this process, as you learned, we attended the session with Joe and Jody, that the doorway into this particular process is really reading Inside Out Coaching by Joe Ehrman, and leading that book discussion, and all of the pieces that we talk about really come from that book. So I think that's really got to be step one into the process. But the 5-step specific path to becoming an ISOI school, which again will unlock a lot of different things for you, would be to start with the sharing of the common language. And as we've shared with you today, to do that in a setting with coaches, do that with your community members, your school boards, your parents, but to really understand that, have a better understanding, that's going to really come from the Inside Out coaching book discussions you've had. In upcoming webinars, we'll discuss, have the opportunity to look into the transformational purpose statement and development of that at the individual level, followed by a session to look more closely at the collective transformational purpose statement of your athletic department and or of your athletic program, along with a collective definition of success and how we'll define what a successful season looks like. And finally, will be the one piece that many look at in terms of policy with school board, but also in the hiring of those transformational coaches through the creation of a transformational coach's job description. Once those steps have been completed, then it will give you an opportunity to be a part of the Inside Out core team, which will include some additional training. It will include access to additional strategies on implementation. There'll be some weekly curriculum that's available for you to share and use with your athletes, along with additional support from the entire Inside Out initiative team. So again, there's a lot of opportunity there for groups that are willing to put in the work and do the work. A lot of people want to jump right to those additional strategies or additional curriculum pieces without doing the work that's most important, starting with common language. It won't nearly have the same meaning. So we look forward to continuing that journey, and Russ will show you exactly how you can continue the steps after today.
So the InsideOutInitiative.org website, so that is InsideOutInitiative.org, has a login feature in the upper right-hand corner. It will ask you for your first name, last name, email address, and zip code. The password to this website is capital ISOI. And once you submit the password and some information about who you are, you're going to have access to several resources that are going to help get you started. There's resources, first the Joe Ehrman book and some questions that go along with it in terms of a book study, if that's something you're interested in doing with your coaches. I know we've done them with ours. There's also some information on common language that we discussed today, as well as transformational purpose statements, some worksheets that you can do for your collective purpose statement, and then some sample job descriptions and some screening questions for aligning your hiring practice, as well as an evaluation tool for evaluating coaches at the end of your seasons. Lots of video resources too that you can use when you are presenting some of this common language to your school board administration or to your parent groups and coaches. My suggestion would be to get on that resource page and look through everything that's available to you. And then of course, watch webinars 2, 3, and 4 to get even more information from Matt, myself, and Troy. I'll leave it with that. Matt, Troy, do you guys have anything else you want to end with?
I'd just like to say thank you for what you do. Thank you for being a part of this journey. I think it really, for me as an athletic administrator, has really been transformational. I don't know that I would still be an athletic administrator if it were not for coming across the Joe Orman's book and the Inside Out opportunities, because it truly is connected with me personally and professionally, and really does set us apart and make us different as education based. And so I look forward to continuing to be a part of this journey with you as you continue to move forward. Troy, any closing comments from you?
Yeah, and I'd add on that Matt, Russ, and I are very happy to help in any way. So if there's ever any questions about any of this that we can help with or be a resource, please don't ever hesitate to reach out to us. It really is our passion, and we're more than happy to help.
And our contact info is also available on that Inside Out initiative page as well. So thank you everyone for your time. We appreciate that today, and we look forward to continuing the journey.